Going live. All right. Allegedly. Let's see what happens. Setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Too many steps.
I think we're live.
I think it redirected me to Facebook. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we are live.
We're live.
All right. So now let's play with our cool.
All right.
So how are you today?
Doing good. So I think you may want to. Oh, okay. We're on two screens now, I guess.
Yeah, I switched it over to gallery.
Gallery view. Okay. All right. Cool.
So if you guys are watching the bumbling here, we had some technical difficulty with our regular platform. So we have a plan B. We always have plan B, C, D.
I mean, if you don't have plans, you know, plan A will always fail and can't give up that quickly.
All right. Okay, so I think we're good. All right, so hopefully everybody will actually see this because I sent out the notifications for the other platform, but if not, and you're catching it on the replay, still say hi and let us know that you checked it out. And if you don't want to watch it here on Facebook, we now have the shows being published on YouTube. So I'll have all the recordings up there for everything that we did this year anyway, season 2, up on a YouTube channel. And if you want to watch and hopefully subscribe to that channel, go for it. And if you're watching this on the recording on YouTube, this is like Skillception here. If you're watching the recording of the recording on YouTube, click the subscribe button and we'll love you for it. We just won't know if we're all real.
Right.
All right. So I think we have a good one today. You know, John and I have a process for coming up with the shows. We like to bounce. We start off pretty silly.
We do.
Especially if John gets me before coffee in the morning. We start off pretty silly, and then, you know, usually we dig down a little bit. And it's no different, I guess. We've talked about it a little bit before, like your sales process, you know, the old, why do people buy a drill? To make holes, but why do they want holes? Because they want to hang pictures. Well, why do they want to hang pictures? Well, because they miss their family. And if we can sell to missing their family, we'll easily upgrade that drill. So sort of the same thing. We start off really lighthearted and funny and silly and, you know, sometimes even make fun of one another. But then, you know, we kind of dig down and find, like, every now and then it hits you like, oh, wait a minute. That's the idea. And that's kind of how we came up with today. So today we're talking about the Boogeyman, or for those of you watching over in the UK, I guess you call it the Boogeyman, right? You know, and it's the idea of this thing that you're scared of that causes you to make irrational decisions, even though you know it's probably not real, right? I mean, I was always scared of the Boogeyman when I was a kid, and even knowing like there was nobody in my closet, I wanted mom to check my closet. And even though I knew I didn't even fit under my bed, there's no way a big scary monster was fitting under my bed, I wanted mom to check under my bed. You know, and it affected me. You know, think about like, oh, I really have to wake up in the middle of the night, I really have to go to the bathroom, but I'm not going because the snakes under my bed might bite my feet, right? Totally irrational based on fear. And we're seeing a lot of this. You know, John and I talk about, well, I'm going to say you guys, but I don't mean like you specifically. We talk about the industry, things we see going on. And we've seen a lot of people making these fear-based decisions, even though you know it's not really something you have to worry about. So that's what we want to talk today about, because we do it too. You know, we're not talking in isolation here. So just to kind of set the frame here, what are some of the things that we're seeing people, and please don't think that we're challenging your courage or your manhood or whatever. You know, we're just trying to help. So John, what are some of the things that we're kind of seeing? That's my crutch word again, kind of. What are the things that we're seeing in the industry groups, including our own groups, that really has people worried and shifting their decision making away from what they would normally do?
I think I'm gonna sum it up in, I guess, 2 words, because I can literally sit here and list 5, 6, 7 different things, right? And those things will still lead to one little tiny thing, right? We're always worried about how it is perceived by the parents, how it's perceived by the community. Essentially, it's the parents, okay, or the clients. You know what I mean? But no, there is like a whole list. Like, we can sit here and name a list. Should we have contracts? What are parents gonna think? You know, should we do this? What are parents gonna think? Should we do that? What are parents gonna think? And that is just like a huge fear. Like, that's just, it really, I think it crutches everybody.
Yeah, and you know, I think one thing that we have to remember is when things get hairy like they are now, we tend to narrow our perspective and start to worry about ourselves and that extension of self, you know, like our business, our families, maybe our jobs, for those of you that still work like a day job. You start to really narrow your perspective to the things that you relate to your survival. And I think one thing that I hope working on some people with coaching them is we want to make sure that we are mindful of when we're feeling fearful, so that we can, you know, while our instincts scream survival, we need to have our higher logical selves remind ourselves that, yes, it's about our survival, but what about the kids? What about our communities? You know, we set ourselves up in a leadership role as a role model. If things get tough and we abandon everybody, you know, what does that say about us? And what does that tell those who are modeling our behaviors that they should do when things get tough? So sometimes just being mindful of that fear is important. Thank you for the coffee.
You're welcome.
Where's my coffee? Just kidding.
We just mailed it.
Virtual
It'll be there
coffee.
tomorrow. If I could figure out how to pass coffee through the screen, man,
Virtual coffee.
I'd be
Forget
rich.
coffee, all the food that we see on Facebook.
Oh yeah. Quick side note, we've been doing that socially distant ninja thing, and we went to
Oh, yeah.
one of the students' homes, and we send a little text, hey, you're next. And he writes back, do you like cheese? So we're like, all right, he's gonna give us a little snack or something. Man, we showed up and this guy had gourmet quality meatball parmesan here, like hero
Wow.
waiting for us, that he took pictures of and posted in the local foodie group, and hundreds of people commented how jealous they were. If only they had tasted it. Oh, that was a bonus for us.
Good, good.
All right. And hey, guys, I can't pull your comments up on the screen because we're doing it on Zoom today instead of our usually be live, but I do see you guys commenting. So good morning, Tim and John and Cheryl and Stephanie and Nathan. Thank you for joining us, and everybody else that's watching that I can't see today because I don't have my regular tools. But I am monitoring on my cell phone if you guys have any comments or questions as we get into this. So please, by all means, post on in there. All right, so where were we before coffee and meatball parms? Because we all know I'm food driven. So we're talking about fears and how they're affecting our decision making. So you know that idea that you said that perception is what's driving it. I think a lot of times we allow our fear of what we think people's perception is to really drive our decision making too. We make a lot of assumption, and it's natural. It's, you know, as you speak, part of language processing is actually that you listen to words and context and try to predict what the end of a sentence will be in your mind. That's why things like comedy work, because usually comedy gets you to predict a certain thing and then takes a left turn and leaves your brain in the lurch. So a lot of times we will predict somebody else's thoughts or emotions and make decisions based on that. I think we're in a unique position because of the relationships that we have with our membership that we don't have to predict. You know, I think right now we could go in our parents group and say, hey parents, what do you think about this? And I think we'll get some pretty honest answers because we have great relationships, because we do serve in a leadership role. So letting that fear skew your perception is a big one that we all fall victim to on occasion. You know, oh, I want to ask that girl out, but what if she says no? It's essentially taking away her free will. And you're doing the same thing sometimes in your business. So how do we get around that? You know, what are you doing in your school to communicate with your people so you don't have to guess?
I mean, for us, because we always have an open line of communication, and they understand that we're not doing anything to harm them or to harm the kids or whatever, we make the decision based on, okay, what's going to be the best practice for the business and for the safety of families or safety of the business. I mean, at the end of the day, it is our business, right?
Yeah.
And because we serve them all the time and we always keep them in the loop and we give them ownership of helping us make decisions, you know, if we make a decision on our own without necessarily talking to them because it's a business decision, then it's okay. Just make it, just do it. You know, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to leave you.
I love that question. That is one of my favorite questions in the entire universe.
Changed my
Here's if they leave you, guess what? Let it be.
They were going to leave you anyway.
They were going to leave you anyway.
So
I
we've
mean,
had some discussions, and it was good discussions, meaningful, like about waivers over the past day or three. And one of the concerns was, and I guess it's a legitimate concern to a certain point, you know, well, what if I put certain wording in my waiver and it scares people off? And I look at it in two ways. First, you know, like John said, there's always open line of communication. And if there's not, and the big scary waiver is the first point of like, hey, I know I haven't spoken to you in 3 months, aside from asking for tuition, but here, sign this that your kid is probably going to die in my classes. Yeah, that breeds fear. But if there's already open line of communication, it's great. And if that is the thing that scares them away, they were already going to leave and they were just waiting for you to give them a reason, which is probably, if you look at, you know, with closings and everything, if you look, you know, we're at like a 30 to 40% drop off since the very beginning, you know, even before we closed, when the fears started coming out, we're at about a 30 to 40% drop off, but none of those 30 to 40% were the hardcore, you know, Skillz tribe. They were the ones that maybe I was already not doing a good enough job with nurturing, or maybe they were not really the right fit for my school. So yeah, people might leave. I don't base my business decisions around the minority percentage. Now, at a high level, I might, but not in the grander sense.
I mean, it's the same thing as if you're doing, say, advertising, right? We had so many people opted in for our virtual classes. So many people signed up for the one-on-one pre-val. But out of those so many people, I chose the ones that will sign up. It wasn't like an automatic, you know, sales pitch of who I want to join us. No, I was very selective because I want to make sure that I'm creating that tribe. And this is the opportunity for me to create that tribe. So when I tell them, oh, by the way, this is what we charge and this is what you have to do, it's an automatic yes. It's not, well, let me see, let me do this, or you know, why would you want me to sign that again? Yeah.
You know who handles that really well? Alan Belcher. When people, he presents his, and he's a no nonsense guy, you know, coming out of the MMA world. He's not the kind of guy, you know, where it's, well, let me show you my facility. He goes, I'm the best. This is what I got. You want it? It costs this. And the second a person goes, well, he goes, nope, sorry, never mind. Classes are full. You couldn't have afforded it anyway. And they go, wait a minute. You know, because he knows what his ideal client looks like. And the second somebody does not fit that, he does not want them. Same thing. I forget who it was at the last MegaCon. I can't recall her name off the top of my head right now, but she spoke about her gym systems and how they run everything exactly to the letter of their systems every single moment of every single day. And she told us that, I think the number was 8, that there were 8 times in the entire history of her school where they violated the systems in order to make the sale. And every single time, the person that they sold ended up becoming a major problem in the school as far as not fitting in. So, you know, whether it's your waiver, if your waiver is the way you do business and somebody says, no, I don't want that, bye-bye. You know, and of course we're going to phrase it a little nicely, unless you're Alan Belcher and you have the name in the game to be able to do so. You know, if you don't want to, you know, if you don't want to sign my waiver, I'm sorry, this is not the school for you then. You don't want to pay tuition, I'm sorry, this is not the school for you then. You want your 6-year-old to be an MMA fighter, this is not the school for you then. If we turn around and make that a fear-based decision of, what if people don't like my waiver and they run away? What if people don't think that I'm worth what I'm charging? Well, what if everybody
wait, go back one step.
Okay.
What if people
what if people don't think I'm worth what I'm charging?
And that right there is what holds us back.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, because I mean, if you already think that, you know, they're not going to pay you what you're worth, then there's going to be this little thing in your head, this little fear concept in your head that I can't do this, I can't do that, you know, I can't have them sign this waiver, I can't have them, you know, do this, I can't increase my prices, I can't, you know, raise my testing fees, I can't. You know what I mean? Because you don't feel like you're providing them like enough value. And
you
I
know,
think
there's an interesting cognitive bias that we have naturally as humans. And you see it a lot in kids, you know, as kids instructors. I'm sure we've all heard this. As parents, I know I've heard this. And as a child, I know I used it. But everybody's doing it, right? We take a small example of something and we extrapolate that everybody does it. And it hits us in business too. But I raised my prices and one person complained, everybody hates the new pricing. When statistically, the most vocal people will be the people that are unhappy, so that, you know, for every one person that was vocal enough to hate it, there were 10 people who loved it, just didn't take the effort to say anything, because people tend to complain more than they tend to praise. So we have this cognitive bias. And, you know, when you make a decision in your business to adjust a waiver, to raise a price, to class schedule, to move away from traditional martial arts to Skillz, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And the first person says, well, I don't like that. As humans, our first response is, oh my God, what did I do wrong? You know, and you want to start shifting, but really you have to look at the larger data set, you know, and we do this with kids. If you've ever read, holy cow, The Whole Brain Child.
Yes.
They talk about, you know, using the upstairs logical brain to control the downstairs illogical emotional brain. And what happens is when a child has some sort of fear, one of the best things that you can do after connecting and empathizing with them is to have them talk through the problem and explain it to you. And it doesn't matter what they think the problem is. just the very process of using language, which is processed very differently from emotion, to talk themselves through the bullet points. But mom, there was a sound and it came from the closet and it was probably the boogeyman. Really? What's the boogeyman? Well, the boogeyman is this imaginative creature but wait a minute, imaginative. Oh, yeah, never mind. It was nothing. Just by getting them to talk through it, it really helps them alleviate that stress. So when we can do the same things for ourselves and gather data and become more logical about it rather than emotional, that's not to discount the impact of emotion in relationship and sales process. It's just to alleviate the fear. I think it'll be a lot more powerful. For example,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we've got a couple of comments in here.
All right, let me look here. Yeah.
Tim said, dang right, legit concern. Tim, I'm catching this a little late, so I'm not really sure what the concern is.
That was about the waivers. I saw that pop up. We're talking about waivers. And yeah, it is a legitimate concern, but it's also one easily addressable.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the waivers, it depends. First of all, don't take the stuff that we put out there and just go implement. Like, don't shoot yourself in the foot like that. Every state has its own laws and regulations and stuff like that. And the insurance companies are regulated by the state, right? So for example, Progressive, right? It is a US-wide, it's a nationwide company. It doesn't mean that, Progressive underwriting in Georgia is the same as the underwriting in New York.
Yeah, some places it's even down to the city level. It's crazy.
Yep.
So one other part of that too is, oh man, never mind, it's gone.
While you're thinking about it, so simply, in terms of the waivers, connect with your insurance company and ask them, what are the current rules and regulations regarding reopening and COVID-19? I bet you anything, majority of the insurance companies will have something written or something in place that has to do with that. Because as your insurance company, they don't want to deal with issues. They don't want to deal with somebody coming in trying to say, oh, my son got sick at your studio, and, you're like, that's impossible. We clean, we sanitize, we do this, we do that. Your insurance company is there to deal with it.
Yeah,
so
like waivers are one of those things that, like, if you don't have one, it means everything that you didn't have one and you're screwed. If you do have one, it means nothing that you had one. You're simply checking a box on the checklist so the insurance company can do their job.
Yep.
That's it. I totally can't remember. I had like this stroke of brilliance and it was gone.
Get a sip of coffee. It might energize that brilliance.
I don't know. Tim also says, can you explain your choosing process? So I'd love to. Well, just let me know a little bit more about what you mean by choosing process, just so we can answer the right thing for you there. And good morning, Eric. Thanks for joining us. I see you chiming in there. YouTube moving up in the world. So yeah, this is one of those things that, every now and then I come up with an idea and somebody says, that's a great idea. Do it. When really what I meant was like that, hey, somebody should do this. Usually it becomes me, which is fair if it comes out. All right. So
John's my process, he was talking about, process of choosing online, I guess, from the virtual online classes. So there's certain vibes that you're gonna get from when you're doing the pre-evaluation. You're gonna real quick figure out the type of parent. Again, the pre-evaluation, in the grand scheme of things, it is to connect with the child and to also connect with the parents and understand the parent. Okay, so we're trying to find out, the children's strengths and challenges. We're trying to find out, how we're gonna place them and all that stuff. But then the parent tells me a lot. Is this the kind of parent that just constantly pushing the child, or they're constantly telling the child what to do, or they're constantly, hovering over? Are they everything that a parent should not be in my studio? You know what I mean? And from there,
And that's
I'm
not a
able to
judgment call on the parent as a parent. That's
It's
just
not.
hey, we have a certain, like, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit kind of thing. If you're not
Yep.
going to fit what we do, it's a disservice for me to try to sell you.
If it's about me signing every person up and, bringing in that individual, I'm going to be the same person that I was 6 years ago when we did the 6-week special. And then we would have 30, 40 people come in the door, and we would sign up like 80, 90% of those people or whatever. And then next month, half of them quit. Like all this hard work that we're doing, and then they quit. So then I'm just mass, what's the word? I don't want to say mass producing, but I'm just signing up large numbers of students. And then the heartache next month is, this month I was up this much, and then I'm down this much. And then it's crazy.
It was a crazy numbers game.
It was a very, I mean, that's exactly what we said. It was a numbers game, right? You have to bring in 100 people in the door, or 100 leads, so you can have 50 opt-ins, so you can have, like, I don't know, 30 or 35 people to sign up.
I'll tell you what, though, I did learn a lot about tracking stats and tweaking processes from that.
That's true.
And every now and then I still do something like sometimes people ask me, like, what are you doing right now as an offer? And I tell them, like, don't do what I'm doing. I'm doing something stupid so that I can pump numbers through and track all those stats like we used to, simply to refine a process. Sometimes the things that I do are not necessarily the things that I would do, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, nowadays I love the ease of the processes that we have now. It's permission to say no. No is one of the most powerful words that we can have in our lives when used responsibly. And so many of us fear to use it. We fear to tell people no, because what if?
Yep.
What if means we said no and they didn't, even if that means they left. My peace in my life is far more important than having to maintain somebody who's going to complain about every single aspect of what I do for the sake of me getting their $200 a month.
And you can read that easy when you're doing the pre-evaluation. You can read the parents' vibes when you're doing the pre-evaluation. There is just a whole lot to read. And you know what, Michael? There is one thing that I just even realized more now as we're doing all these virtual one-on-one pre-evaluations, is they're at the comfort of their own home. You know what I mean? So because they're in their safe zone, they're in their safe environment, that the true colors are just coming out faster than just being in the studio dressed up, trying to be professional, not smack that child. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, what? I had a mom of 3 that the pre-evaluation was supposed to be at 4. She got on at 4, but I didn't start the pre-eval until 4:15 because it took her that long to gather the kids. Again, I'm not being judgmental, but what are the chances of those kids coming into the class late?
Well, it's an indicator. It's not a judgment. It's just one single metric in my evaluation of what could be our relationship. Just like if I was out trying to date somebody and we have this wonderful, perfect date, and then the waiter comes and I go to tip the waiter, and people in my family are notorious over tippers. So I go to throw down $30 or $40 for a tip, and my date goes, ew, he didn't even bring me water. Okay, nope. That's not a deal killer, but it's certainly an action indicator of what that relationship might be like.
Run away.
yeah, run
Sorry.
away.
Do you hear the background noise?
Yeah,
just a tiny bit. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Tim, what is your phone call like when you schedule the eval? All right, Tim. We did this topic at the Skillz HQ business meeting, so you kind of missed out on that. My phone conversation with them is, are they, what? I don't want to give it away because there is a sequel to it for MegaCon, but you know what? We'll give it a shot anyway. What kind of lead you've got in your hands? Okay, are they? You know, we all say leads, right? But technically, they're really not leads. A lead is not a person unless they've bought and purchased something. Okay, so I find out, are they a suspect, a prospect, a lead? Okay, then in that order. Okay, so yes, they're a lead if they opted in and bought a 2-week special. They've already paid me money before I provided any service. Okay, so now I need to find out if they're a suspect or a prospect. A suspect is a person who's just shopping around, doesn't really know you. They're trying to feel the environment. A prospect is somebody who's that next level up, who's understands what you're doing. They were a suspect at once, but they've been in your system for a little while. They've been receiving your emails and all that good stuff. So when I'm talking to them on the phone, I'm finding out a lot of juice right away, what kind of person they are and how they answer some of my questions. So most of the time people call you on the phone to ask you questions, to interview you as a school owner. I flip that around and I interview them as a parent that's going to be in my studio. And
Yes.
Michael, you've been posting some stuff on Facebook. You've been giving little bleeps of the new system that you're putting together, that you're putting in place. And I'm loving it because I am seeing this huge value of, you know, what kind of, okay, let me go back because when we did the topic, it was suspect, prospect, lead, member, and then antelope, right? Man, with the new system that you're putting together, you're putting that antelope up on top. You're signing them up as antelopes already,
Yeah,
becoming, you know,
there's a
antelopes
couple
before they're
things to
becoming a
that.
lead.
I mean, in one sense, we can do it from a position of not being fearful of turning people away because before all this malarkey happened, we were pretty much on our game. A lot of our classes were full, so we didn't have to worry about, you know, oh my God, how are we making rent this month? The other side is, with all this malarkey, things are about as low as they could get. So what could go wrong? You know, we've become, you know, a lot of us, when we take phone calls, we try to be information givers. Oh, let me tell you all about my program. The problem is we don't know what they want. They want to know all about our program, but they don't know what we have. We're just trying to find two things that might fit. So it doesn't work for me as the expert in my program and the childhood development expert. So I've got two of the three legs. They've just got the child. You know, I've got two of the legs of what's going on. So my phone calls, much like yours, very quickly get turned around to information gathering. I don't want to give information. Not that I won't, you know, if you want to know my schedule, I'm going to tell you my schedule because it is a filter. It is a carefully crafted friction point that if the schedule doesn't fit, I'm not going to justify it. I'm just going to say, well, let us know when your schedule changes. Done.
I mean, when they call you on the phone, they only have 2 questions that they really want to ask you.
Yep. When and how much?
You know, yeah, exactly. When and how much. That's it. That's all they want to know. That's why they're shopping around. They don't want to come in the studio and check you out. And
I
if
think everybody's had that conversation of, well, you got to have the value proposition before you give the price. And we do that, but we make sure that we keep control of that conversation. We find out, well, why are you even calling me? I want my kid's getting bullied and he needs to learn how to kick ass. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not even going to tell you about my school. I can tell you right now, it's not school for you.
he just, I mean, the way that father answered the call based on your example, I already know, like, wait a minute, you want to make a bully out of him because of what you just told me.
Yeah. And, you know, it's not even about the child at that point, because the child may come into class. I know the child's going to come into classes and love my classes because what I do is designed for children to love it. But I also know that every single time that I go through a character lesson and tell kids about how to de-escalate, I'm going to have that discussion with the father after class about how throat punching a 4-year-old is not appropriate. You know, it's not what they want, and it's not what I want to do. So it's far more valuable to me to turn them away. And I don't just say, no, get out, wrong school. Oh, well, that sounds like what you're looking for is probably more like an MMA gym. A good friend of mine down the road has a great program for kids who want to learn how to fight. Done. And sometimes that conversation turns them around and they go, well, what do you mean? There's more to it?
A lot of times when they sense that you've got the confidence, I don't want to say, I'm going to use the word confidence, that you're a confident enough instructor and business owner, they're going to sign up with you because they want their kid to be just as confident as you are. You know what I mean? And then when they see on the floor, all the black belts and all your students, putting out the same vibe as you just put out, they're going to want to sign up. The problem that we're facing right now is we're virtually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am not doing any hard sale right now. Hard sale meaning pre-eval, sign up right away. Because I want to test the waters with them as well. So I'm literally going from, and this is why like my process virtually is slightly different. I'm going from the pre-evaluation. I'm testing the water. Do I want them in the 2 weeks or not? If I want them, then I'm going to say, okay, you know what? Our next step right now is to do the 2-week special. It is normally this much, but because of, the circumstances, we're doing it for this much till the end of the month or, for whatever.
Yeah, we're doing the same.
And then during the 2 weeks, myself and Jennifer Randalls and the other instructors, Anna and Courtney, if they're teaching yoga or Skillz Fit, they all know what kind of tribe we want to have. They all know the culture that we like to have.
Use the word like 3 times in a row. Want. What do you want in your school? Not what do you need? Obviously, you need money to pay the bills and do whatever. That's
the money.
It's secondary.
The money is not make it or break it.
Yeah, I mean, when we make decisions and we come to a like a crossroads, and we're not sure which path to take, or we're not sure what would be better. Usually what we do is we revisit the question and we said, if money was not involved in the decision, what would the decision be? Because, when we do it, like I said, this is not judgment about anybody, because we do it too. If we're making business decisions about, if a family calls up and says, hey, we both lost our job, we don't have any money for class, our initial fear-based decision is, I'll put you on, I'll cancel you, or you have a contractual obligation, or I'll put that money on the back. But if I take money out of that equation, what's the decision? The best thing for the child is for them to keep coming to class. Don't worry about it. Now, the secondary conversation is, can we afford to give it to them for free? Will we sponsor them? Will we defer it to the end of the contract? So once we've made the core decision, those things that were holding us up because of fear are much easier to make, because now they're a consequence. And it almost sounds backwards to focus on the want as the important thing and the need as the secondary. But in this case, it kind of works. Oh, I said kind of again. Man, I'll get rid of it.
It's funny how when you realize you've got a crutch word and you keep on listening to yourself saying it over and over, that's a good thing though, because you'll be out of it in no time.
We have those indoor snowballs at the school, the little, I guess they're filled with yarn or whatever. And anytime one of us uses our crutch word or anything that's perceived as a crutch word, each of our storm team members has a snowball, and they're allowed to throw that snowball at us if we use our crutch words.
Nice. That's good motivation for them.
Not anymore right now, but
keeps them active, keeps their brain active.
Yeah, it keeps them, and it makes them mindful of their own crutch words too.
Yep. So plus, as you guys are watching, if you're out there, what are some of the fears that you have right now about reopening or about your studio? that you're afraid to tackle with your parents, put in the comment. Michael and I can take a, just like maybe we can hash it out. So you guys can go back to your studio and not necessarily have those fears anymore. We've got 20 minutes left. So instead of us trying to guess what your fears are, just put it out there, right?
So Nathan has a really good comment here. I wish I could pull these
Yeah,
up.
I read that.
Guys. He says, definitely something I learned during this crisis. I've had 3 parents ghost. I've already told 2 of them they need to find another martial arts school. I will admit it was about the numbers before. I want the culture now so that the numbers mean something deeper. And that's it, nail on the head. It's, not to sound cliche, but if you build it, they'll come. When you build the culture that you're looking for first, the people that want that culture will find you. And it's not magic. You still have to market and advertise, but you also then have a responsibility to maintain that culture for your members. If I set up a very peaceful harmony, area, and then I want the money and bring in, the next guy who's just a Randy wants to fight individual and is argumentative about everything, I've now violated my trust with everybody that I already had as a client. So, what John was talking about before, and hey, Gavin, I see you're watching too. What John was talking about before with what we're moving to now is more of a private school model where you don't come take a trial. You don't come sign up for class. You submit an application. And if your application matches what our skill set is, and we feel we are able to help with your child's challenges, we will invite you for an interview. Parents, so that we get a chance to speak with you and learn more about what's going on, what are the root causes of the trouble. And it might not always be trouble. Some kids just want to train martial arts, and that's cool too. But I want to know that. Then if you pass the parent interview, we go for the evaluation. Then if your child is able to pass the evaluation, and I have a whole flow chart of what happens from there, you'll go into a mandatory 2-week observation phase where you're not a member, though you are allowed to attend classes. Then you get a letter of acceptance or not. And I don't mind having an or not, because now it's like when you tell a kid they can't have something, they want it even more. I'm not worried about what happens when I turn somebody away. We have a process for doing that tactfully, and for even giving them objective tips for, hey, our next application period is next month. We're not saying no to little Johnny, but at this time, he's not the best fit for the spot we have available. Please keep an eye out for next month's enrollment options. In the meantime, here are 3 things you can do to help little Johnny really perform well on his next evaluation or observation period, wherever it happened to fall in the process. And it's going to show so much value. And when I say it's going to, I'm really just projecting out into the universe. I don't know, because I haven't tried it. It'll project so much value that when I accept somebody, they'll already be ready to pay me far more than I charge now, in theory.
And that's because you've put together what you want out of what you want for your tribe, what you want for your culture, what you want, because that way, when you go and talk to the parents, there is no fear factor, because right. It's you're like the principal of that studio. So, how many of us go into public school is different. Never mind.
But even in public school, there's processes. You have to, when your child goes to kindergarten, they have to go get assessed for kindergarten placement. They have to make sure they can cut a straight line and draw a circle and count to 10, and they have basic language processing skills. And essentially you are accepted or told, hey, maybe you should wait until next year's enrollment. Even with public school, there's processes.
You just brought up a good point.
And you pay through the nose for public school too, in your taxes. So
yeah. You brought up a point of the students get assessed, and it just brought to my attention that public school systems every so many years, or like around kindergarten, 2nd grade, whichever grade they're going for, one of the assessments or one of the things that the parents have to do is to get a doctor's permission that the child has been vaccinated, right? Now that we've got this situation going on with COVID-19, how many public schools will make it mandatory that parents will have to go and get their kids tested? Are they asymptomatic? Yeah, that word, it doesn't want to come out.
They're not showing the Rona.
Yeah, they're just showing the not the Rona. But Michael, since you said you can't show the comments, if you do screen sharing and you do the screen sharing on Facebook, then you can have half the screen. But
you're trying to do more work for me.
No, I just make it easy. That's all. I tried to do it on my end, but you've got host access.
Oh, I see. But, with that too, when you go to public school, using that analogy, although we're modeling more off of private school, we have some very high-end private schools in our area where people from all over the world send their kids, and it's like $80,000 for the school year. I mean, like very exclusive. We're modeling more off of them. And what happens in either of those scenarios is that in the beginning of a school year, you meet with the teachers. The students get a syllabus. You meet with the teacher so that the teacher can set down expectations of what will happen. If your child misses 3 homeworks, they get a 0 for the week. If your child is late 3 times, they get detention. So I'm not looking at it from a punishment aspect, but I am looking at it from that establishment of systems perspective. So now, because a parent is coming in to apply, a parent is coming in to interview, a child is coming in to interview, and they still have potential for not being accepted. When I set down, these are the things that have to happen for this to be a successful relationship. It's no different than when I prompt my kids in a Skillz class saying, hey guys, if you want to be really awesome ninjas, you'll do 20 push-ups instead of 10 push-ups. They're all going to do 20 push-ups because I prompted them that that's what it means. So now when I get a chance to prompt the parents that if your attendance does not match our attendance policies, if your child's behavior does not match our behavior expectations, if your child is more than X amount of minutes late to class without notification, and I don't know what those processes are, I'm just kind of going off the top of my head because we haven't built it that far yet, but it allows us to set those guidelines from the get-go. So now it's not like, little Johnny's always 10 minutes late to class. It's Mrs. Johnson, class starts at 5 o'clock. You are paying me $300 a month, whatever the number is, to be in this school. You are accepted because you fit this program. So for Johnny to get the most out of it, he needs to be here when class starts, not a minute late, not without his belt.
You say that, and we were having a conversation with a couple of school owners, and they said, oh my God, I'm still frustrated because even though we're doing Zoom classes, the kids are coming in late, and I don't know why. They're not even driving. They're just at home, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I mean, how do you know that the kid has permission that they can just hop on Zoom? How do you know that the parent is not late because they were driving in from work? I mean, listen, we're in a lockdown, but it doesn't mean that,
doesn't mean life stops.
Life stops. How do you know that the parent, like, based on my conversation with some of my parents, their biggest struggle is they only had, like, say, 2 laptops at home, because one for the mom, one for the dad, and now they have 2 kids at home that they need to do their digital learning days. So they're trying to work,
have conference calls, and
exactly.
What's that recipe
and the class
for dinner?
Is at 5 o'clock, and the kid logs in at 5:10.
One thing I've been kind of counseling. Damn it, I said kinda. One thing I have been counseling.
He dropped the D word.
Come on, man. Your potty mouth himself over it now. One thing I've been counseling people about is the judgment calls that we're making right now are based on our experience in the old world. People are not canceling right now because baseball season started. People are canceling because they have to make a decision between feeding their families or taking karate classes.
Yep.
People are not late because little Johnny was, hanging outside with his friends, picking each other's noses. Little Johnny was late because we only have 2 devices in the family, or the Wi-Fi was slow, or there was a problem with Zoom. Like today, we had a problem and we had to make an adjustment that we were easily able to do because now we live in a tech world. The 5-year-old who might be on his own, you don't know what goes on in that house. He might be, go in your room and do your karate classes. He might be on his own and might be struggling to get in on technology. So these are different times which require far more compassion and empathy than you might even have in your regular classes.
And then if you want them to be in class on time, you just do a little bit of like sideway motivation. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like intrinsic, extrinsic at the same window. And for me is, all right, as soon as I log on, the first 5 people that are ready for me and they're in the waiting room or whatever, the first 5 people that come in, will get to choose the game or the games that we're going to play today, or the drills that we're going to do today. Or it could be where I'm keeping tally, and when we get back to the studio, the people that reach so many points because they came in early in class, they can out of the treasure box, they can get something, or they can get something from the pro shop. You can create whatever, anything that would hold value to them to come in late, to come in early.
So I'll go back to the sales call. If it's like once or twice that a child is late, look, they're a kid. Life happens. We are not gods and kings of the world that people have to bow down to us and be to our classes on time. We want to encourage it because it teaches valuable lessons. But if it's all the time, here's where we tend to start being information givers. Little Johnny, you're always late. This is what I need you to do instead. Instead of saying, okay, I see there's an issue here. Let me find out why. And it might be something as simple as, hey, I just forget because life is so crazy right now and I got corona brain. It might be as simple as setting up some notifications 15 minutes before class through your CRM software. If it's, we only have 2 devices in the house, I could say, okay, we do post a free workout every day with the exercises from class. So while mom and dad are finishing up their conference call, I want you to follow along on that video. And that way, when you log into class, you're warmed up and ready to go. So, getting to the root cause of it, instead of making those presumptions, can sometimes be really valuable. And I know we've gotten a little off topic from the fear-based concept, but that goes along with the fear-based thing too. If you start wondering like, I haven't seen little Johnny in class for a week and a half, and I'm really afraid that I'm going to lose them and lose their tuition and lose their value in my life as a student. Okay, what steps are we doing to assess what's really going on? Maybe they're on vacation and forgot to tell you and end up got quarantined somewhere because they're from New York and everybody hates us and wants to quarantine us. And plus we have a lot of Rona. You have to really look at the logical side of it sometimes and step aside from your own projections of what you think might be going on. Let's see. So Gavin has a post here. Must read lockdown ready for the unlock. It's an Audible link. I'll take your word for it and I'll check it out after the broadcast. I don't know what it is. Well, let me see if I click it. What happened? Oh, I can't click it from the live thing. All right. Yeah, I'll check it out. Gavin's got some good input usually there. So we're at about the 5-minute mark here. So, if you guys have any last thoughts or anything you want to chat about, go ahead and comment them in. But otherwise, let's recap a little bit. So we are in crazy times where we have to make a lot of decisions that are uncomfortable. We tend to, because we are fearful of our income, our mortgage payments, what's going on with our businesses, uncertainty in the world, all these legitimate things that make us unsettled, our decision making tends to get skewed the more fearful times get. So first, we wanted to make sure we were mindful. Man, that tree is just all up on you.
Yeah, it is.
The love tree. We want to be mindful of when fear is overtaking our processes in our relationships and our decision making. We want to use questions like, what's the worst that could happen? If I removed money from the equation, what would the decision be? We have to make sure we are leveraging professionals around us. You know, we talked about using lawyers or insurance companies for waivers, and then it's not even a knee-jerk reaction. These are people who are, you know, by nature and by career, very steady-minded people. If you've ever met an actuary, they are rock steady. You always know what they're thinking. We want to make sure that we are being mindful not only of ourselves, but of those in our care, our clients, the kids around us, who, by the way, kids can smell emotion. You know, if you are having stress in your life, no matter how well you think you're smiling and projecting, you know, goodwill, they can sense it. So we want to get away from fear-based decisions for that alone, because we don't want them feeding off of that. They are very sensitive to it. We want to make sure that we are, while we are counting our numbers, we are also making decisions based on our culture, our vision, the long-term game, not just what we're afraid might happen tomorrow. And I think, on a side note, is also we can use this opportunity to test, figure things out, do things we normally wouldn't have done, you know, because everything is digital. It moves so quickly. We can get data really quickly and in large amounts, and then use that to pivot, to make decisions. Did I miss anything there?
Nope.
Also, I guess, keep control of your phone calls. I'm just going back through the comments here real quick.
Don't be afraid to interview your members instead of them interviewing you.
For sure. Now, when somebody is stuck, because it happens, you know, a couple of weeks ago, if you would have talked to me, I'd have pulled out what was left of my hair here, because I was stuck. And, you know, you get in these moments of fearfulness. They are extremely hard to get out of if you can even recognize it in yourself, because sometimes you're so deep in it, you don't even see it. You got to have people around you. And I know we say this almost every call. You got to have people around you who know you, who see these things in you, and who can talk you through them, and who are not afraid to tell you things that you don't want to hear.
I was about to say that. Don't be afraid if they slap you. That's exactly what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that scene in now our younger viewers won't get this, but that scene in Airplane where the lady's panicking and they start smacking her, and the guy says, no, let me, and he starts smacking her. Sometimes you need a line of people with your best intentions at heart to just line up and smack the fear out of you, so that you can go, oh yeah. And sometimes once you break that, it's so easy to make decisions, and they won't always be the right decisions. You know, I'm not going to say you're going to turn into, you know, some wise old man on the mountaintop always making the right decision, but it'll be easier to make decisions.
I mean, again, kind of like how we started this, you know, the topic today. Michael and I kept on going back and forth until, like, wait a minute, that's what the topic is going to be about. You know what I mean? Like, so having that other person, and we talked about that one last week, having that mentor, having that person that you can talk to and just get your fears out to them, like spill the fears out to them. That way they can help you, like, either solve the fears or get rid of them, or nope, you're totally on the wrong track. Get off of it. Let's find something else to talk about.
And sometimes you don't even need to talk through it. Every now and then, and you know, John Melody and I have this group chat going, and every now and then one of us will just post like, hey, this is a challenge I'm having. I don't need an answer. I don't need direction. I just needed to get it out there so that I can move forward and keep being the leader that I need to be. And, you know, we'll get a little smiley face, heart, whatever is appropriate, and we all move on. Sometimes you just need to talk it out, and you can come up with your own solutions. All right. So look at that. Brought us right to time there. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So again, thank you for spending the time with us. We know times are kind of weird and fearful right now, but, you know, be the leader. Don't be afraid to be afraid, but don't let it control you. Push through it and set the tone for everybody around you. Don't get stuck on focusing on the problem. Remember to focus on solutions. If you need help, we are here. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you made it all the way to the end, oh, are you choking? I will help you. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you very much for bearing with us. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, follow, whichever platform we're on here. Do the right thing.
All right, guys. Have an amazing, amazing week, or the rest of it anyway. You know how to find us.
All right. Go get it.
Peace out, y'all.